Hello friends and welcome to Momo Makes. I'm your girl Momo. I do DIYs, upcycles and sewing projects. We are welcoming the month of Ramadan with a heart filled with peace, harmony and joy. May the divine blessings protect and guide you. As you enjoy this month of blessings, a Ramadan Countdown Calendar is a simple sewing and crafting project that you can enjoy, especially with your younger ones. It features the days of the month of Ramadan and a pocket for each day. You can write a note and keep it in each pocket and a treat for your child that they can get after iftar. It's a fun way to celebrate Ramadan and it reinforces the concepts. For this project, the materials you will need are 1 yard of muslin fabric, 1 yard of fleece backing, white bias binding tape, black Rogran ribbon, a fabric scrap in a monochrome color or print, printing ink and stencils for lettering and numbers, and you will need a wooden dowel to hang your calendar. Before we start cutting, it's important to iron out the muslin fabric. For a 20 by 30 inch calendar, we will need 18 by 20 inch piece of muslin. We will add 2-inch border or frame to this, so it will be a 20 wide by 30 inch high calendar in total. Let's start by measuring and cutting a muslin piece 28 inch by 18 for the middle part. We will cut a piece of fleece backing with the exact same dimensions as the backing of the main body of your calendar. I'm using a bit of quilting spray to hold the fusible fleece backing to the muslin. This is to make sure that both fabrics line up exactly and the fabric doesn't ripple. I will iron down both layers once I'm sure they're perfectly smooth and lined up. Quilting spray is a temporary adhesive. You can skip this step if you're brave enough and go straight on to ironing the two layers together. Once you're ready, iron on a medium to high heat setting to bond the fleece with the muslin. Next, we will make the calendar pockets. For this, we will cut muslin strips 25 inch long by 2.5 inch high. We will need 5 strips for 5 rows of pockets. I'm using fusible interfacing for the pockets. You can use fusible fleece or interfacing for this. It makes no difference. I had actually run out of fleece at this point, so I chose the interfacing instead. Attach your strips to the lining, iron on medium to high heat to fuse the layers together, and cut the strips out. Lay out and position the strips on your calendar and fold them into 6 parts. Pressing to make marks where the pocket seams should be, we will make 6 pockets on each row. For now, just pin them in place and we will stitch the pocket rows in place with the sewing machine in a minute. For the frame or border, we will cut 2-inch wide double strip, which means that you will cut 4 inches plus some seam allowance and fold it in the middle. You will use 2-inch wide fusible fleece to give it some body. You can choose to make one long length and then wrap it around the calendar as one continuous strip. I did not have that much fabric, so I just made 2 strips for the length and 2 strips for the width, plus a few extra inches for a mitered corner. We will start stitching the calendar by attaching the border first. We will attach the length strip and the width strips first. Then we will mark and sew a triangle where they attach and trim it to make the mitered corner. We will repeat this process on all corners and tack them down. The back of the border is not finished yet, so I use my serger to bind the raw edge, and I will show you in a minute how to finish this in a very easy way. Before we move on to the final stitching, we will do the letter printing. I'm using these Hallmark stencils that I bought at Michael's. I chose the border design from this set. To print, I use Speedball screen printing ink. This is permanent ink and it's easily available at Michael's, Joann, or Walmart. You can use fabric color or acrylic paint if you want, if you find that easy. It really makes no difference. For the days of the month, I'm using a simple number stencil, and for the lettering, I'm using the same style letters. I'm using masking tape to hold my stencils in place and a simple sponge applicator to apply my ink. I covered the rest of the calendar with a piece of paper to keep everything neat. The border stencil is a repeat pattern, so once I'm done with the first stretch, I'm going to carefully lift the stencil and place it in the adjacent spot and securing it in place with a masking tape. Once you get to the corner, you can mask off a diagonal edge with some tape and then repeat the same process when you turn and work on the next edge. Before we put the pockets in place, we need to put the numbers on them. Again, this is up to you. You can do the numbers first and then apply the pockets, or apply the pockets first and do the numbers. Again, we're using the masking tape as a guide, so your numbers are equidistant and centered, and also so that you don't have any paint smudges on your pockets. Before we start sewing the pockets to the calendar, we will finish the top edges. For this, I am using white bias binding tape, and I'm simply folding it in half and covered the edge. Instead of applying it in 2 steps like you do traditionally, where you first stitch the underside and then fold over and top stitch, I just went with the simple shortcut method. I just folded it over the edge and sewed on top of it. And I must say the result is pretty good because the pockets are stiff with the interfacing, so it's a neat finish. Once the edge binding is complete, we will once again position all the pockets on the calendar and pin them in place. Going back to the border edge binding, this is the step where we will finish that. I am using this rope tape as a decorative element here. This is optional, and this is only to hide your top stitching. The free edge of the border is right beneath the seam here, and what we will do here is we will pin and just top stitch. We will use the stitch in the ditch technique and apply the binding tape on top while also catching the open border seam in the back. Now we will work on attaching the pockets to the calendar body. For this, I'm using a very thin grosgrain ribbon, the black one. Since my pockets are pinned in place already, I will just lay the ribbon on top and sew over it, catching the edges of the pocket strips in the back. Once you get to the end, cut the ribbon and just tuck it underneath the edge and stitch and reverse stitch over it. Remember that we segmented the pockets into 6s earlier. We will use those folding marks as our guides to make the pockets. So just stitch over the pocket marks. We will also add a big pocket for Eid, and I use the same method of attaching the pockets to make the big Eid pocket. We can now put the final touches on the calendar. We will add the Ramadan Kareem lettering. I'm starting out with stenciling a dotted line. This would give the design a cohesive look and distinguish the letters from the pockets. For the lettering, I wanted the words spaced evenly, so I'm starting out in the middle with the letters N and K, and then adding letters to grow the words into Ramadan and Kareem on both sides. We will also add Eid Mubarak at the bottom of the calendar next to the Eid pocket. For this again, I am using my masking tape as a guide and I'm putting the letters in reverse to space them out evenly. Next, we will add some nice Ramadan theme imagery at the top of the calendar. For this, measure out the space you have and draw the silhouette of a mosque with a dome on a piece of paper. For a symmetrical design, I folded the paper in half and made a large dome on the fold, 2 smaller domes, and 2 sets of minarets. Trim and adjust the design to your liking. Since this is a monochrome calendar, I'm using a black and white dotted fabric scrap to cut the design out of. Just pin your paper design onto your fabric scrap and cut it out. You can use fabric glue to stick the design to the calendar. If you want, you can do freehand machine embroidery on top of it like I did in my Target dress challenge video. I will link it here if you would like to see how easy it is to do. As a final step, attach 3 hanging loops to the top edge of the calendar. To hang this calendar, we will insert a dowel and tie a ribbon to hang it from a nail on the wall. This step is optional. You can just stack the calendar right onto the wall with tacks or removable hangers if you want. Our lovely monochrome Ramadan Advent calendar is ready. You can use this calendar to count down the days of Ramadan with your little ones and reinforce the concept with a piece of candy or treat to discover after iftar. Here are 10 ideas of daily notes that you can add to each pocket. You can definitely write your own and grow your notes collection. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please consider subscribing and turning on the notifications. I post videos every week. I am praying that happiness will find you in this Ramadan and wish you a very, very, very happy and prosperous Eid. Thank you very much for watching this video and I'll see you guys next time.